Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1879B, and today's date is May 28th, 2019, and the title of the episode is The Movement Challenged Their Forced Narrative. Now Patriots Unleash Their Weapon. Now, before we get started, I wanted to talk about privacy. Facebook expects to face a massive fine of up to $5 billion from the Federal Trade Commission as a result of an investigation into its privacy policies. Once again, big data fails to protect its consumers' privacy. Why should we keep trusting them? Well, we shouldn't. And one way to fight back is by using a virtual private network. Virtual Shield is my VPN of choice because it's the easiest and fastest VPN to use. Plus, they will never sell or share your data with anyone else. This month, Virtual Shield is offering a Memorial Day special of 30% off all VPN plans. Their no-log policy protects its users from any data breaches. Protect your personal data today by clicking the link below. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the Patriots, they're getting prepared and ready to put out the truth. And the truth is going to be made up of facts, documentation, and everything like that. And to prepare for this, they need to keep the deep state off balance. And we're going to see disinformation. We're going to see them say one thing when really something else is happening. We're going to see the deep state try to fight back, but it's going to be very, very difficult. And I think in the next coming 1-2 months, we're going to see a lot of this. And the deep state, they're going to try to time their event and try to get it right. This way they can clog up the news cycles, but I don't think it's going to work. And we'll be talking about that in just a minute. But first, I wanted to start off with Trump, where he is basically hitting Biden over the super predator crime bill 25 years ago. So what is the crime bill? The 1994 Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, which Biden helped craft as a senator, created 3 strikes mandatory life sentences for repeat offenders and increased prison funding by about $10 billion, among other provisions. Now, at the time of the passage of the bill, the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, Biden served as a chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee and was instrumental in getting the legislation onto then-President Bill Clinton's desk and signed into law. Take a listen to what Joe Biden had to say back then.
Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now, not out of a liberal instinct for love, brother, and humanity, although I think that's a good instinct, but for simple, pragmatic reasons. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And, Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society.
Now, as you can see, he was very forceful. He wanted this crime bill. And once again, this did not benefit the people whatsoever. And Trump responded to Biden with a tweet. And he's calling out Biden and pointing at the crime bill. Trump said, anyone associated with the 1994 crime bill will not have a chance of being elected. In particular, African Americans will not be able to vote for you. I, on the other hand, was responsible for criminal justice reform, which had tremendous support and helped fix the bad 1994 bill. He continued, super predator was the term associated with the 1994 crime bill that Sleepy Joe Biden was so heavily involved in passing. That was a dark period in American history, but has Sleepy Joe apologized? No. And you can see that everything that these individuals were doing that was saying that this is going to help you, when you look back in time, it turns out that they were a complete and utter disaster. Now, the 1994 crime bill overhauled the criminal justice system, funding an additional 100,000 police officers and providing $14 billion more in grants for community policing. While crime rates in the U.S. largely dropped after the bill was passed, critics say the legislation led to an era of mass incarceration that heavily affected black communities. And again, it didn't work the way they thought. Actually, crime started to move back up again because they started to allow illegals into the country. Now, with the whole spying thing, the Obama administration was behind snooping on journalists, snooping on judges, politicians, those who are running for president, and it looks like it is a lot worse than we originally thought. In 2013, the Associated Press raised an alarm after the Justice Department informed the news service that it had subpoenaed and obtained the records, not including content, of the calls of 21 mobile phones and landlines, including home numbers assigned to AP journalists and their offices. But the Department of Justice had in fact issued 30 subpoenas for records of 30 phone lines it believed to be those of the Associated Press reporters and editors. And this is according to a 2014 report by the Department of Justice Office of Professional Responsibility. The report was obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request by the First Night Amendment Institute at Columbia University and the Freedom of the Press Foundation. And again, we know that Obama and certain individuals within his administration, they were spying on journalists, they were spying on judges, they were spying on politicians, they were spying on people, keeping track and blackmailing those who needed to be blackmailed to do what they wanted to do. And we can see this with the FISA court. We can see this with Obamacare. Now, when we look at the FISA court, this is very interesting. FISA court judge Rudolph Contreras, who oversaw General Flynn's cases, friends with FBI agent Peter Strzok, who set up General Flynn in the White House. The judge is now reportedly involved in fraudulent warrants in front of the FISA court. Every single judge on the FISA court as of March 2017 was appointed during Obama's presidency. Chief Justice John Roberts has been in his role since 2005, and therefore he has appointed all the judges to the FISA court. Now, Judge Roberts is famous for supporting Obamacare in two radical positions, one of which Justice Scalia, in his withering dissent, referred to as applesauce. Knowing this, it is concerning that Judge Roberts also is responsible for makeup of the current FISA court. Now, if we need to go back in time, remember Judge Roberts, he was the one saying, listen, Obamacare is unconstitutional. I can't sign off on it. And then all of a sudden, one day, he said, okay, it is constitutional, left the country for 2 weeks, and guess what? He was blackmailed into signing off on Obamacare. And now John Roberts is appointing the FISA court judges. This is very interesting. Now, in a text message chain from Page and Strzok on July 25th, 2016, she writes, Rudy is on the FISC. Did you know that? Just appointed to 2 months ago. At that point, the pair continues to discuss other issues but comes back to Contreras. I did. We talked about it before and after. I need to get together with him. Then later, Strzok appears to return to his discussion about Contreras. Strzok and Judge Contreras were buddies. Now we know that Judge Contreras is involved in numerous FISA court abuses. Former U.S. Attorney Joe D. was on the air a week ago, and he shared this. Take a listen to what he said.
All tape recordings relevant to the Michael Flynn case. So that includes not only the Flynn conversations with Kislyak and others, but other people. Something is happening strange in the courthouse in D.C. The judges are beginning to get out of their somnambulant walk and are beginning to realize that they've been lied to by the Weissman-Mueller bunch for almost 2 years. and that a series of frauds on the court have been committed by Mueller in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. We shall see whether or not the judges of that court have the cojones to do what they need to do. Remember Mr. Contreras, the judge who recused himself from the Flynn case after taking the plea? It is now known that he was involved in several other FISA warrants involved in this matter. Judge Contreras has a lot of explaining to do, and so does the Chief Justice of the United States as to what he's done to fix the mess that has been created with the FISA court.
Now, we all know that General Flynn, he was set up. There is much that we still don't know. The exact reason for corrupt Judge Contreras to recuse himself from the Flynn case is still unknown. We don't know why he did it or who asked him to recuse himself. But I believe we're going to find this out very, very soon. Now, Joe D. is out there, and he is saying that the Huber investigation into the Clinton Foundation is a farce. Huber hasn't even interviewed the top witness in the case whom Joe D. represents. John Huber is the special prosecutor tapped by former AG Jeff Sessions to investigate FISA abuses by Obama's Department of Justice FBI. Sessions nominated Huber to perform this investigation after numerous calls for a special investigation into the Clinton Foundation and the deep state. Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan and Doug Collins, they sent a letter to Special Prosecutor John Huber on January 8th demanding answers by January 21st deadline. And they said, your investigation has been ongoing for over 9 months. During the course of our extensive investigation, we have interviewed more than a dozen current and former Department of Justice and FBI personnel, and we're surprised to hear none of these potentially informative witnesses testify to speaking with you. Now, currently, there are 3 investigations going on regarding the deep state and Obama-Clinton crimes. The Huber investigation, the Department of Justice I.G. Horowitz investigation into FISA abuse, and separate investigations into James Comey, and the most recent investigation set up by A.G. Barr in Connecticut led by John Durham. Now, Huber was supposed to be investigating Clinton, and Joe D. says the following. Huber was supposed to be investigating leaks and a bunch of other things. He stopped his investigation because of Horowitz, so he's a useless appendage who's done nothing. In fact, he's supposed to be investigating Uranium One, and yet he never contacted our law firm, and we represent the key informant in this case, Doug Campbell. So go figure. And finally, Durham, he's the real McCoy. He's doing what Barr asked him to do, which is to get to the bottom of everything. Impanel a grand jury if necessary, turn indictments if necessary. The big question is whether Horowitz will put on his big boy pants and do something different than when he did the page-struck thing, where he laid out all the evidence of bias and then he said there's no evidence that this affected decisions. What a bunch of crap. I mean, he basically went dead to help the institution of the FBI and senior people at the Department of Justice. If he does that again in the FISA thing, if I were the Attorney General, I'd fire him. Now the question is Joe D. out there purposely misleading everyone, giving disinformation? Well, let's go back to post 2072. And in this post, and this was back in September 3rd, 2018, it says the following. The experts, but Sessions should appoint a second special counsel in D.C., also known the corrupt swamp. But Sessions should appoint a second special counsel in D.C., a.k.a. the corrupt swamp, team of less than 20 typically, and wait 2 to 4 years, take a gamble. But Sessions should appoint a second special counsel in D.C., a.k.a. the corrupt swamp, because unlike the Clinton email corrupt case, as demonstrated by the FBI Department of Justice people fired, removed, this will be conducted faithfully and honestly like Mueller. But Huber has not directly interviewed several witnesses, therefore the appointment of Huber by Sessions, and therefore the IG, is not genuine. But Sessions and Huber are following standard Department of Justice open ongoing investigation policy by not discussing making public, so therefore nothing must be happening. Fire Sessions. But Huber, ability to prosecute and impanel a grand jury outside of D.C., who already began the investigations late last year with a assigned team of 470 investigators, attorneys plus IG plus legal jurisdiction across all 50 states is not a special counsel. So therefore, nothing is being done. But POTUS is attacking Sessions via Twitter, so therefore he is working on behalf of the people's interest. Or POTUS D-left love trust Sessions. But interestingly, if nothing is being done behind the scenes, why are so many FBI and Department of Justice senior officials being fired and or removed from their respective positions of power? Who is AG? Who must sign off on each removal? Department of Justice in charge of FBI. But interestingly, if nothing is being done behind the scenes, why are there 50,000 plus sealed indictments across the U.S.? What percentage equals USA versus X? Coincidence versus Huber start. But interestingly, if nothing is being done behind the scenes, why are many powerful CEOs, members of Congress, Senate resigning? Coincidence? Example, pre-POTUS did the Speaker of the House indicate wanting to leave politics. But interestingly, if nothing is being done behind the scenes, why are human trafficking arrests surging? Clickbait and opinions versus logical thinking. Direct communication necessary. Trust yourself. Think for yourself. Where we go on, we go all. Now let's fast forward to post 2604. And Annan says, so Huber is a head fake. If so, brilliant, Q. Q says false. Huber will bring severe pain to D.C. Sessions' forced release of name Huber to House created another variable. Use logic. Why would we tell you the plan if in doing so also alerts those we are actively engaged in hunting? Now, Joe D is out there and he is saying, listen, from Huber, no one came to ask questions. But if we go back in time, Q told us there was somebody else. Joe D, I do believe, is pushing this information out there so the deep state does not know what is going on. And I believe just because Joe D said that someone from Huber's office didn't ask questions, it doesn't mean someone from someplace else didn't ask questions. And this might be how it's being played to throw off the deep state. Remember that Q, the Patriots, they do this quite a bit. And they need to do this because they don't want the deep state to know the plan. Now, Paul Sperry tweeted out something very interesting. Breaking, I'm told this Trump-hating Obama loyalist and leaker who helped arrange Hillary's softball FBI interview and supervised struck during the Trump-Russia witch hunt will have his turn in the barrel when the Department of Justice Inspector General's report comes out. This guy, the one on the right, is former Obama Department of Justice counterintelligence official David Laufman, the architect of the rarely enforced FARA prosecutions of Manafort, Gates, Patton, and the threatened FARA prosecutions of Flynn and Papadopoulos. And again, there's many people behind the scenes. There are many people behind the curtain. And I believe we're going to start getting a lot of these names, and they're going to be pushed out into the front. Paul Sperry continued, breaking, ex-FBI Director James Comey never used a grand jury to investigate the Russian interference collusion crimes he said he was investigating, raising suspicions he was more interested in spying on the Trump camp and transition than solving alleged crimes related to Russia. And again, we know this for a fact because they spied on Ted Cruz. This had nothing to do with Russian collusion, and I believe the Patriots are keeping that in their back pocket to bring out later, to throw this out into the mix. Because remember, their whole entire narrative was we were spying on Trump because of Russian collusion. Then why were you spying on Cruz? And I believe they're going to pull out many others, and I believe they have this in their back pocket, and they're going to say, you spied on all these people because they were dealing with Russia? Then the whole story starts to seem a little ridiculous. They were spying on these people for political reasons, which means they broke the law. They were spying illegally. Now, very interestingly, the author of the dossier, Christopher Steele, He refuses to cooperate with the U.S. Attorney John Durham. He is not cooperating whatsoever. Anyone really shocked and surprised about this? Do you think any of the deep state, do you think they're going to cooperate unless they get some type of deal? If there is no deal, I don't think they're going to cooperate. Like I said, if you're expecting any of these individuals to admit that they did something wrong or broke the law, they will never do it. They will go to prison saying that they're innocent, even with signed documentation, videos, recordings that prove that they're not manipulated. They will still say, that's not me. They will say, that's not my signature. They'll say, I was never there. Even though there'll be so much evidence that you can't even counter it, they will still never say that, yes, I did it. So get that out of your head. If they do, well, all the better. But I don't believe they will ever admit it. Now, what's very interesting is that Bill Barr, he is very concerned in what is happening in New York and many other places, because New York is changing the law to go after Trump. Now, we know you can't be tried twice for the same offense. The concept of being free from double jeopardy is a right that has been recognized in law for thousands of years. The New York General Assembly has decided to weaken the protection against double jeopardy heretofore enjoyed by those within its borders. In our federal system of governing, power is shared between the federal and several state governments, which each constituting a separate and legal sovereign, empowered and entitled to enforce its code of criminal law, even if doing so places an individual at risk of successive prosecutions for the same offense, notwithstanding what appears on its face to be an exercise in double jeopardy. The U.S. Supreme Court has long permitted the practice, but a case currently before the High Court for decision could change that. However, recognizing the fundamental unfairness resulting from this application of dual sovereignty, many states, including New York, have enacted laws that prevent state prosecutors from bringing criminal charges against a person if that individual had previously been convicted of the offense by the federal government. But last week, New York's heavily Democratic legislator decided to limit that protection by passing a measure that Governor Andrew Cuomo is going to sign. The legislation permits prosecutors in New York to bring criminal charges against a person already convicted under federal law, but who otherwise would be shielded from the state prosecution in New York. And it looks like they're trying to change the laws to try to go after Trump. Now, Joe D. says we are in a full-scale war. So what does he mean? He said, when Bill Barr became Attorney General, the president said, see what you can do. See if you can get to the bottom of what happened during the campaign. Bill Barr tried to do that, and you will recall from his interview with Fox, he said that he now had more questions than he had when he started. Chris Wray, the current FBI director, was stonewalling the current Attorney General, Bill Barr, on disclosure of certain information about FBI conduct. It got very, very heated. And Gina Haspel, the current CIA director, was also resisting disclosure of certain information. Barr got fed up, went to the president and said, I can't answer your question, and here's why. The president said, fine. 24 hours later, the order came out. This is a full-scale war between the Attorney General of the United States and, believe it or not, another FBI director who thinks he's James Comey. Christopher Wray is a disaster. He is an unmitigated disaster, Jody says. He says, you are watching the quintessential Washington power battle. Here's the problem for the agencies, the FBI and the CIA. They have one distinct disadvantage. They can leak to the Post and the Times, but they do not have subpoena power, and Bill Barr does. We are headed for a gigantic fight. The intelligence community, including the FBI, is in full resistance in disclosing what they did during the presidential campaign. Christopher Wray is now standing in the way of history. Make no mistake about it, Christopher Wray has become an enemy of the people. Now, the question once again, why is Joe D. all of a sudden doing this? Why is he throwing these individuals under the bus? Why is he so vocal right now Again, is this disinformation? Let's go to post 2632. Q gives us a Twitter link, and it's a Twitter link to the FBI. And it says, this week, FBI Director Wray completed his visits to all 56 FBI field offices, beginning at FBI Knoxville in 9/2017 and ending yesterday at FBI Tampa. Director Wray had the honor of seeing the great work the men and women of the FBI are doing every day throughout the country and the world. Q went on to say the following. Why would the FBI director take the time to visit all 56 FBI field offices around the entire United States? Completed this week. Logical thinking. Q. Now let's go back to post 2555, and it says Whitaker, Horowitz, Huber, and Wray. Long meeting held within a skiff. Unusual. Usually indicates something highly important was discussed. This is brackets, bold, planned. Q. So the question is Joe D out there trying to say that Wray is not cooperating? Wray is just like Comey. Wray is stonewalling. Wray is doing exactly what Comey wants, throwing the deep state off once again. It could be. We'll have to wait to see how this all plays out. Now, down at the southern border, we see that the wall is being built. And for months, the mainstream media, politicians, they mocked what's called We Build the Wall. Now, this was started by Brian Kolfage. And he is a veteran. He's an amputee. And he started a GoFundMe page where he got private donations, $20 million worth, to build the wall. And a lot of these mainstream media outlets and politicians and everyone else said he was going to use this money for himself or others and things like that, and he wasn't going to build the wall. Well, this turns out to be fake, phony, and false. Because the money he received, the $20 million in private donations from over 260,000 individuals to build a border wall on the U.S. southern border, it's being built. And this past Memorial Day weekend, they put out some pictures showing the wall being built. And you can see from all these pictures that the wall is definitely being built. And Chris Kobach added that We Build the Wall is finishing this section of the wall with a platform on Mount Cristo Rey that allows border guards to see for nearly 30 miles. What else does this wall do? Well, they explain that this section of the border wall will cut off smuggling of around $100,000 worth of illegal drugs a day. This is a hit to the deep state. This is what they don't want being done. They don't want a wall being built. It stops their human trafficking. It stops the inflow of their drugs. It stops the illegals from coming in. And we see the wall is now being built. Now, very interestingly, in Venezuela, the entire plan by the neocons completely fell apart. Guaido right now, he is in talks with Maduro in Oslo. And his support is completely dwindling. And it looks like the revolution to overthrow Maduro is completely over. And I do believe very soon that Maduro and Trump, they're going to be talking with each other. And I think this is going to happen once these talks are completed. And once again, there's going to be no regime change. There's going to be no invasion. And the entire plan that has been going on for many, many years is now completely off the table. Planned and executed. Now, the next plan is Iran. And this is kind of tough here because we know that John Kerry, Feinstein, Obama, and many others, the intelligence organizations, we know that they have black sites set up and they're controlling certain aspects of the Iranian government. And Eliana Johnson tweeted out the following. Per White House official Kushner, Greenblatt, and Iran Representative Brian Hook in the Middle East discussing economic portion of peace plan, Rabat, Amman, and then Jerusalem. So Trump has said, and he came out and said it, we are not looking for regime change. I want to make that clear. No one wants to see terrible things happen. Trump, he is not on the side of the neocons. He's not on the side of the deep state. He doesn't want war. He's a negotiator. He doesn't want regime change. What he's trying to do in Iran is he's trying to remove certain individuals. This is why he's expecting a call. He did it in North Korea. He's doing it in Iran. Now, I want to go back to post 2700 because everything is about to change. And we can never allow this to happen again in our country or to another president. And Q in this post lays it all out. POTUS. This can never be allowed to happen again in our country or to another president. How do you deter and prevent this from happening again? Simply by terminating employment of those responsible? Simply by conducting a few non-threatening investigations? No, this will not work. Or by prosecuting those responsible to the fullest extent of the law. Setting up new checks and balances and oversight designed to increase transparency. Provide OIG offices with funding including size plus authority. Provide select committees with access and in-house viewing of non-national security classified material. Provide a check on directors, department of directors, assistant directors of all such ABC agencies. Establish financial checks and reviews of those in senior critical positions, audits, and direct family close proximity. Transparency in prosecution is the only way forward to save our republic and safeguard such criminal and treasonous acts from occurring again. While some want to quietly remove those responsible and go about our business, save face on the world stage, those in control understand this Band-Aid will simply not work. Nobody should be above the law, no matter how massive the spider web is. This will never happen again. Truth works. Facts matter. Q. This is the weapon of the Patriots, and it will be used because this can never happen again, or this was a complete waste of time. And everything has to change the way we do business today in government. It all has to change. And what else has to change? The central banking structure. All of this will need to change. Just like we're putting in checks and balances within government, with certain agencies, checks and balances have to be put in place with the creation of currency. And this is where we are headed. The secret weapon is truth. It's transparency. And this is what the Patriots are going to unleash. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.